The forbidden scan the alien ship moved quietly through the empty stretch of space. Its hull was made of black metal, reflecting only faint light from the stars. Inside, the crew worked in silence, their eyes on glowing consoles and scanning equipment. They had picked up something unusual. A large object drifted ahead, dark and still, almost hidden against the backdrop of the stars. It looked like a ship, but no signal, no communication, no sign of life came from it. The captain of the alien vessel stood tall at the front of the bridge. His skin shimmered under the cold blue lights of the control panels. He stared at the faint shadow on the screen and narrowed his eyes. "Identify it," he ordered. The scanners hummed, sending out waves of energy. The crew waited for the results, but nothing clear came back. The object ahead was resisting their scans as if its surface had been built to block them. One of the officers shifted uncomfortably. "It is a human ship," the officer said at last. "A battleship, but the design is old, too old. It should not even be here." The word human spread across the bridge like a whisper. Several officers looked at one another, their faces tight with unease. They all knew the stories about human warships. Stories that spoke of ships vanishing into silence, of weapons that burned through fleets, of technology that should not exist. But those were stories told to frighten young soldiers, not truths to be believed. The captain gave a low laugh. "Humans, they are children compared to us. Their weapons are crude. Their ships are nothing compared to our fleets." He leaned forward. "We will scan it, all of it. I want to know what it hides." The order made the crew restless. A few exchanged nervous glances, but none dared to question him. The scanning beams reached out again, touching the hull of the dark ship. This time the data began to flow back, slow, broken, and strange. On the consoles, glowing lines of information scrolled down. The alien crew frowned. The readings made no sense. The ship's armor was thicker than expected, layered with unknown materials. Energy patterns inside the vessel shifted as if the ship itself was alive. Strange signals echoed back, interfering with the alien ship's own systems. One officer looked up with fear in his voice. "Captain, this design is not new. It is older than our archives. This ship, it should not exist." The captain brushed him off with a wave of his hand. "Continue the scan. We will break through whatever tricks they built into it." The scanners pushed harder. Blue waves of energy spread across the human warship's hull. For a moment the ship remained silent. Then lights flickered along its dark frame. Thin orange lines appeared, running across the metal like veins waking from a long sleep. The alien crew froze. Every eye turned toward the screen as the lifeless ship began to glow with faint energy. "Did we activate it?" One officer whispered. The consoles began to spark. Strange code filled the displays, symbols none of them recognized. The ship was not giving information. It was sending warnings. The messages came in pulses of energy, sharp and heavy, as if the battleship itself was speaking. The bridge filled with a low hum. It was deep, almost a growl, echoing through the alien vessel's walls. The lights flickered. Some of the crew pressed their hands against their ears, but the sound was not coming through speakers. It was inside their heads. The alien captain tried to stay calm, but even he felt the weight pressing down on him. The human warship was not simply an old relic. It was something built with purpose, something that had been left drifting here like a predator waiting for prey. "Cut the scan," the captain ordered at last, his voice sharper than before. But the order came too late. The human warship shifted. Its engines glowed faintly, though no crew could be seen. No signs of pilots, no signals of life. Yet the ship moved, tilting slowly as if it had finally noticed it was being watched. On the alien bridge, alarms rang out. Their own systems were failing. Readings crashed. Panels shut down. The scanners had opened a door that should never have been touched. The officer at the weapons station shouted, "Captain, its weapons are locking on us." The crew panicked. They had come only to study, to look, to scan. But by trying to see what lay inside the human warship, they had awoken it. The captain stared at the screen, his hands tightening on the console. He did not speak. Deep inside, he realized the mistake. Humans were not children. Their ships were not weak. They had built something the galaxy should never have seen. And now, his crew was the first to pay the price for looking too closely. The bridge fell silent, except for the steady hum of the human battleship growing louder, closer, like the heartbeat of something ancient and alive. Warnings ignored. The alien bridge was filled with flashing lights and uneasy silence. The human battleship floated ahead like a sleeping beast that had opened one eye. Its dark frame was lined with glowing veins of orange and blue like fire trapped inside steel. Every officer felt it. The air was heavy. The ship was not just a wreck drifting in the dark, it was awake. But the captain stood tall, his hands locked behind his back. His voice cut through the fear. Hold your positions. Do not lose control. This ship cannot harm us. It is a shell, an old machine. Fear makes you weak. The words sounded strong, but his crew did not feel strong. Their screens showed systems breaking one after another. The scanners returned only chaos. Symbols filled the displays, moving so fast no one could understand them. Some believed they were human codes. Others whispered that they were not human at all. One officer trembled as he spoke. "Captain, we should retreat. This ship is dangerous. It is not meant to be touched." The captain turned his head slowly, his cold eyes fixing on the officer. "Do you question me?" The bridge froze. No one answered. The officer lowered his head, ashamed but still afraid. The captain stepped closer to the main screen. The human warship hung in the void like a giant blade waiting to strike. "Do you not see the truth?" he said. "If humans built this, then we must know how. Knowledge is power. If we unlock its secrets, no force in this galaxy will stand against us. And if it is only a shell, then we will claim it as our prize." He raised his hand. "Continue the scan. Push deeper. Strip away every secret it hides." The order struck like a hammer. The crew obeyed, though dread burned in their chests. Their scanners pulsed again, waves of blue light striking the ancient hull. For a moment, nothing moved. Then new readings poured in, stranger than before. The ship's internal structure was shifting. Walls that should have been solid were moving, changing shape. Energy surged inside the vessel as if it were breathing. The alien scanners tried to map it, but each time they did, the ship changed again as though it refused to be understood. One officer cried out as his screen went black. "It is rewriting our systems. The more we scan, the more control we lose." But the captain did not bend. His voice grew harder. "Ignore it. Breakthrough. We are stronger than human tricks." His words gave no comfort. The crew worked in silence, sweat on their foreheads, fear in their eyes. The more they scanned, the more alive the warship became. The orange veins burned brighter. Panels across its hull opened, revealing weapon mounts. A low rumble vibrated through the void. The alien ship's hull groaned under invisible pressure. The crew felt the vibrations in their bones. The sound was not of metal, but something deeper, as though the warship was speaking to them in a language older than their stars. "Captain," whispered the weapons officer, his voice cracking. "It is targeting us again." The systems show lock-ons. Every cannon, every missile bay, all of them are pointing at us. The captain's jaw tightened. "Let it aim." "It dares not fire. It is an empty vessel. We will not bow to fear." But fear had already taken root. One by one, the officers turned their eyes toward the captain, hoping he would change his mind, hoping he would order retreat. None came. He stood tall, proud, unwilling to admit that the stories about humans might be true. A sudden shock tore through the bridge. Every console flickered at once, filling with images that did not belong. They saw flashes of battles, burning worlds, fleets torn apart by weapons too powerful to exist. They saw human ships moving with impossible speed, carving through armadas that had once ruled the galaxy. The crew gasped. Some staggered back. The images were not just on screens, they were in their minds, burning into their thoughts, impossible to ignore. One young officer dropped to his knees, shaking. "This is no ship. This is a grave warning. We must leave." But the captain's face hardened. He slammed his hand on the console. "Enough, what you see are illusions. Tricks of human design meant to frighten us. Do not give them power." He forced his gaze onto the burning ship outside. The alien crew, however, no longer shared his confidence. They could feel the truth pressing in on them, heavy as the void itself. The warship was not playing tricks. It was showing them what it had done, what it could still do. And yet the scan continued. More power fed into the scanners. More waves lashed against the hull of the human warship. Every second pushed them closer to something they could not control. The captain's pride blinded him. His crew's terror chained them in silence. And the ship ahead pulsed with growing light as if it were waiting for the final mistake to be made. The forbidden scan had become something worse. It was no longer just an attempt to uncover secrets. It was a challenge. A challenge the warship was ready to answer. The warship awakens, the alien crew could not breathe freely. Every second felt heavier than the last. Their scanners kept digging into the ancient human warship, and with every pulse of energy, the vessel outside stirred as though their curiosity was feeding its awakening. On the bridge, the captain stood still, his eyes fixed on the vast frame of the battleship. The orange veins along its hull now burned like rivers of molten fire. Faint arcs of blue energy ran across its surface, crawling like lightning. The ship had not spoken a single word, yet its silence was louder than any threat. "Status report," the captain demanded. The officers looked at their failing screens. None of them wanted to answer. At last one voice broke through. "Captain, it is alive. Every scan returns something different. The ship changes its structure as if it is hiding its true form. The deeper we look, the less we understand. It is resisting us." The captain clenched his jaw. "Nothing resists us." "Push deeper." The officer hesitated. His hands shook above the console. "If we continue, it may destroy us." The captain's eyes burned with anger. "Continue," he repeated. And so the scanners fired again, striking deep into the core of the human warship. This time, the response was instant. The void shook with a sound that had no origin, a roar that rattled every plate of the alien vessel. The battleship's engines ignited with a sudden blaze of white light. The crew staggered as their screens filled with impossible readings. The warship was not old, not broken, not drifting. It was active, powerful, and armed. One officer cried out as his console spat sparks. "Weapons activation. All batteries online. It is preparing to fire." The bridge erupted in shouts. Officers scrambled, hands flying across dead controls. Their ship systems refused to answer. Each attempt to shield themselves ended in failure. It was as though the human vessel was inside their own network, shutting them down one by one. Then the screens changed again. They no longer showed numbers or signals. Instead, images appeared, holograms of wars long forgotten. The aliens saw fleets burned to ash in moments, planets turned into fire, cities erased under shadows of ships exactly like the one before them. The crew's voices trembled. "These are not illusions. These are records. Records of battles from the past." The captain's face paled, but he stood firm. Even if true, those battles are ancient. Those humans are long gone. But the warship answered him. From deep within its hull, a single tone rang out. Low, metallic, sharp. It was not a voice. But every alien on the bridge heard the message as if it were whispered into their bones. "We are not gone." The lights on the battleship blazed brighter. Its cannons shifted into place, huge weapons that glowed with a pale blue heat. Their aim was perfect, locked onto the alien ship as though guided by unseen eyes. The alien crew broke into panic. "We cannot win!" "It will tear us apart." The captain slammed his hand on the console. "Silence. Hold your ground." But even as he shouted, fear cracked in his voice. His pride was breaking. The alien ship shook again as something reached across the void. A beam of energy lanced out, not a weapon, but a probe. It passed through their shields as if they did not exist. The consoles on the bridge screamed with warnings. Their ship was being read, stripped, understood, the same way they had tried to strip the human battleship. The crew gasped as their own records appeared on the screens. Logs of missions, battles, victories, and defeats. Everything about them was now open to the warship. It was turning their own arrogance against them, and then, the final blow. A new message flashed across every screen in symbols that burned themselves into the crew's eyes. They did not need to translate. The meaning was clear. You should not have looked. The ship's engines roared louder, the sound like a storm breaking across the galaxy. Its weapons charged fully, blue fire swirling inside their barrels. For the first time, the alien captain did not speak. His lips parted, but no words came. He finally understood the truth. The human warship was not a relic. It was not abandoned. It was a guardian, a sentinel of forgotten wars. And now, awakened, it looked upon them as intruders. The crew sat frozen in terror as the battleship shifted its massive frame, aiming every weapon at them. The void was silent again, but the silence was worse than sound. It was the silence of judgment. The scan had ended. The warship had awoken. Terror across the bridge. The alien bridge had fallen into silence, but it was not the calm silence of discipline. It was the silence of dread. Officers sat stiff in their chairs, afraid even to breathe. The human warship outside glowed like a star born in shadow. Its cannons pulsed with light, its frame alive with energy, its engines humming with a steady rhythm that sounded almost like a heartbeat. Every display aboard the alien vessel was no longer theirs. The consoles glowed with strange codes, lines of symbols that no one could read. The ship no longer belonged to them. It belonged to the presence that had awakened before them. The weapons officer whispered, "We are locked. Every barrel is pointed at us. Captain, we must retreat." The captain's eyes were fixed on the giant vessel outside. His pride was collapsing, though he tried to hold it together. His voice came out as a low growl. "No, if we retreat, we prove that we are afraid. This is a machine, nothing more." It cannot, but his words stopped. The main screen changed. It no longer showed the void of space. Instead, it filled with images that none of them had asked for. They saw an alien fleet, not their own, but one from long ago, a fleet vast and mighty, reduced to nothing in seconds. Human warships burned through it like knives through paper. The screams of 1,000 voices filled the air. The crew clutched their ears, but the sounds were not in the speakers. They were inside their minds. Then the vision shifted. They saw cities, alien cities, tall and bright, falling in fire as human bombardments rained down. Towers cracked. Skies turned red. The ground split apart as if the world itself had surrendered. The crew shook with terror. Some wept openly. Others pressed their hands against their eyes as if shutting them would block the visions. But nothing stopped the flood of history. One young officer cried out, his voice breaking, "These are records. This ship carries memories of war. It is showing us what humans have done." Another officer, older and bitter, whispered, "Not what they have done, what they can do again." The captain gripped the railing so hard his claws dug into the metal. He wanted to believe it was illusion, a trap meant to break their courage. But the warship outside was no illusion. The light that burned from its cannons was real. The hum of its engines was real, and the fear inside his chest was far too real. The main screen shifted again. Now it showed them, the alien crew itself. Their faces appeared, their ship, their very lives displayed back at them. Every file, every mission log, every private message stored in their systems had been pulled out and laid bare. The warship knew them. It knew everything. The communications officer choked out, "It has stripped us. We are open to it. Every secret, every weakness, it has taken them all." The captain opened his mouth to command, but no words came. For the first time in his long career, he had nothing to say. His crew looked at him, their eyes wide, their voices trembling, waiting for guidance. But he gave them nothing. He had no answer to the power that towered over them. The warship's lights blazed brighter. The low hum deepened into a roar that shook the very walls. And then at last a voice came, not from speakers, not from translation devices, but from everywhere at once. A voice metallic and human, ancient yet clear. "You should not have come." The crew froze. Some dropped to their knees. Others clung to their consoles. The words were simple, but they carried a weight heavier than any weapon. It was not anger. It was not rage. It was judgment. The weapons officer whispered in despair, "We cannot fight it. We are already dead." The lights of the alien ship flickered as systems failed. One by one, the consoles went dark. Their engines died. Their shields collapsed. They floated powerless in the void, a helpless insect before a predator. The captain tried one last time. His voice cracked as he shouted, "We are not your enemy. We only came to learn." The voice answered, cold and final, "Knowledge has a price." The crew screamed as the warship's cannons charged, blue fire swirling inside them. The bridge shook. The stars themselves seemed to vanish behind the glare of human power. And in that blinding light, every alien finally understood the truth. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not young. Humanity was the shadow that had lingered in the galaxy's memory, waiting to rise again. The terror was complete, and the warship was ready to strike. The final revelation, the alien ship drifted powerless in the cold dark. Their engines were dead. Their shields had fallen. Their weapons were silent. Every system had gone dark, stolen by the human warship that loomed before them. It hung there like a mountain of fire and steel, glowing with veins of energy, its cannons alive with light. The crew trembled in their seats. No one dared to speak. Their faces were pale, their eyes wide, their hearts pounding as if waiting for the end. They had looked too deep. They had awakened something that should have remained asleep. The silence broke with a low hum that filled the bridge, a sound that came from everywhere and nowhere. It was the voice of the warship itself, ancient and unyielding. "You should not have looked." The words cut through their minds, heavy and final. There was no anger in them, no mercy, only truth. On the main screen, images appeared again. This time they were clearer, sharper, impossible to deny. The aliens saw not only wars of the past, but the faces of humans who had fought them. Men and women stood in steel halls, their eyes cold, their weapons steady. They were not desperate. They were not weak. They were conquerors. Behind them stretched armies of ships, endless fleets, engines burning brighter than suns. The alien crew gasped. Some whispered prayers to gods they had long forgotten. Others closed their eyes, unable to watch. But the warship did not allow them to turn away. The visions pressed into their minds like fire. They saw empires fall. They saw rulers kneel. They saw galaxies bend under human will. And then they saw silence. The silence of a galaxy scrubbed clean. The silence of humans who had vanished, leaving behind only shadows and weapons. The communications officer broke down, clutching his head. "It is not showing us what might happen. It is showing us what already has. Humanity has done this before." The captain's lips trembled. He wanted to deny it, but the truth weighed on him. Pride had carried him this far, but pride was dust before what he now understood. The warship's glow intensified. Its weapons hummed with unbearable power. The alien crew felt the vibration deep in their bones. Death was moments away. One officer sobbed. "We cannot escape. We cannot fight. Captain, give the order to beg for mercy." The captain's voice was hollow. "Mercy does not live here. Do you not feel it? The ship is not commanded by men. It is commanded by something else. Something older. Something that remembers." The voice came again, stronger, colder. "We are the memory of war. We are the guardians of silence. You came seeking secrets. You found your end." The bridge shook as the cannons of the warship charged to full power. The alien crew cried out, covering their faces, holding each other, waiting for the fire to consume them. But at the last moment, the ship did not fire. Instead, the main screen flickered, and the aliens saw themselves once more. Their faces, their ship, their fear. And then, written across every console in a language they had never known but somehow understood, came the final message. "Leave this place and tell them what you saw. And never return." The alien crew froze. Their ship trembled, then slowly systems began to return. Lights flickered back on. Engines stirred. Shields rose from the dead. The human warship had given them back their lives. But the gift was heavier than death, for now they carried a burden. Knowledge. The alien captain sat in silence, his hands weak on the console. He could not speak. He could not even breathe. All he could do was stare at the warship that still glowed before them. Its cannons dimmed, its engines quieted, but its presence filled the void with a weight no star could match. One final pulse of energy rippled from the battleship, pushing the alien vessel back, sending it drifting away. The distance grew, but the fear did not fade. The crew stared through the screens until the human warship vanished into the blackness, its light swallowed by the endless void. Only then did they allow themselves to breathe. Only then did they collapse in their chairs, trembling, broken, alive. No one spoke. No one could. There were no words to explain what they had seen. The captain finally found his voice, but it was not strong. It was a whisper, dry and cracked. "We must never return here, and we must pray no one else is foolish enough to try." The crew nodded, though their hearts knew prayers were useless. The galaxy was vast, but nowhere was safe from the truth. Humanity had not been erased. Humanity had not been weak. Humanity had left behind ghosts that still walked in steel and fire. As the alien ship limped away into the dark, every soul aboard carried the same unshakable thought. They had stared into the heart of a human warship, and they would never stop fearing what they had seen.